What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
And I'm Miguel.
And very, very special show tonight. Honestly, lots going on this week. Tonight, we have Mr. Steve Merlo on the show to talk the Sawyer Massacre, which is his unofficial prequel to Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. Super stoked about that. That film looks absolutely incredible. We were both blown away by the trailer. And we're also going to talk, his filmmaking career. We're going to talk his filmography and just horror in general. And Steve's a great guy, so we're excited to kind of dive into this with him. Miguel, buddy, how you doing in this super busy week of our first Oktoberfest?
I know, right? We're in our first Oktoberfest, and I'm all sorts of excited. So I'm ready to get this ball rolling. I'm ready to talk all things horror, and I'm ready to talk about this sweaty atmosphere that we call Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So
sweaty atmosphere. Yeah, man, that's one way to describe it. So, guys, let's not waste any more time doing this. He is the writer, director, and producer of The Sawyer Massacre, the unofficial prequel to Tobe Hooper's 1974 classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He's an avid horror fan, and we are so grateful to have him on the show tonight. Please give a warm Let's Talk Movies welcome to Mr. Steve Merlo. How's it going, my man?
Hey, guys. How are you guys doing? I'm doing great.
We are doing really well. Super stoked to have you here in the midst of the fall season, or kind of like what we were just talking about before the show, like the start of that fall season. Things are getting cooler. And as all the spooky season festivities begin. So we're super stoked to have you, man. So glad you're here. Happy
to be here.
And if I'm not mistaken, the film releases this month, doesn't it? Like later on this, or
in October.
October. I'm already in that.
We're only days away from it, so I mean,
it's
so darn
October,
right? Yeah. It releases in less than a month from now. I can tell you that much. It's October
awesome,
21st.
Dude. That's awesome. How does that feel after what I'm guessing a couple years of hard work going into that?
Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, it's been about 3 years of hard work. If I really go back even a little bit more than that, when I was, fine tuning the script, even, but we originally did our first bit of filming, our film trailer that we shot here in Western Canada. We did our first one in the fall of 2019, so 3 years ago. We shot that. Didn't release it until I was very picky with it. I kept going over stuff, and we didn't release it until August of 2020. And that's when we started crowdfunding, basically.
Yeah.
So it took a while before we actually released that trailer, and then we released another teaser trailer. We actually shot some footage down in Texas with that, just to show some authenticity. And I wasn't there in Texas, actually. It was right in the middle of the pandemic, and
right,
and
borders closed.
I directed everything over video chat, so
nice.
Everybody loved that. Everybody loved that teaser trailer. So that's basically what kind of propelled us to get this thing made in Texas, was that teaser trailer. So very thankful about that.
That's awesome. I will say, if COVID did anything, I think it kind of made everybody reevaluate the way that they do things, like for their profession, for like life in general. It's very weird. But again, really busy, exciting time for you, man. You've got your YouTube channel too, plus all that encompasses like the release of the movie. So it's also just a busy time to be a horror fan. You know what I mean?
Kidding.
Like there's so much going on. I mean, Halloween Ends is only 3 weeks away, which is like hard to believe. The new Hellraiser film, which that trailer just dropped, which looks incredible. I mean, you've got, Smile and Barbarian and a bunch of those other films out there too, Terrifier 2. Like it's a really busy time. Even just Miguel, haven't even had a chance to talk to you about this. I think the final Halloween Ends trailer is supposed to drop tomorrow evening.
Ooh.
So
I could have sworn I saw
the trailer.
Yeah, I the other night when I was watching a movie with my girlfriend, we caught like another trailer of Halloween Ends, and I was like, "Ooh, I haven't seen this one." So I either I've only seen it once and I don't remember, or like it was just a new trailer. But yeah, I caught a glimpse of it, and I'm really glad with the marketing they're doing with it, just keeping it close knit and tight to the chest, and letting you know what could happen, what any possibilities could happen in this movie.
Yeah.
So that got me all more excited about it. And another thing I wanted to like talk to you guys about is in regards to marketing, like, have you guys checked out the new like the movie Smile? Have you checked out their marketing campaign that they're doing for that movie?
I haven't myself.
I think I've only seen the trailer in the theater. Like I don't even, was it when we went and saw Nope? Maybe.
Yeah,
I think that's the only thing I've really seen of it.
So
see, I never even seen Nope. So
you haven't seen Nope?
It was good.
You gotta check it out, man. It was really
I'm
good.
so behind on all this stuff. I mean, I haven't seen Barbarian yet, and I keep hearing,
I haven't either.
Go see it. Pearl, I haven't seen so many of these newer films because I've just been so busy.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, being busy director. I believe it.
I did see X though. The first one.
I didn't see X, and I heard good things about it. I didn't get a chance to get around to see it. So, I definitely I want to check it out.
I thought it was okay. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. I did see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre influence that everybody was talking about. There was a couple of shots that were almost copycat shots,
right,
from the original. Right. And that's cool and all. That's but at the same time, I didn't. I don't know. It was okay. I didn't love it. I wanted to love it, and I always want to love these newer films, and
right.
I very rarely do. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Nope was good. No, just I don't know. There's something about Jordan Peele's films. Like I don't know. Did you see Us and Get Out?
I did. I actually liked Get Out.
Yeah,
I didn't find it scary, but I liked the concept of it. I like, it's kind of, I like the twist, I guess you would say. Yeah. Us, I had a hard time with. I had a really hard time with that movie. I probably missed some stuff. I don't know. I guess there was some sort of complexities they're going for that I just wasn't quite getting. But
and I think that's something. I think that's something Jordan Peele is always trying to do. Is just his way of directing is just way too complex for a lot of people. Me myself, so a lot of that thing just flies over my head. I don't know if you're experiencing the same thing.
Probably. I don't. Yeah. I mean, again, Get Out. I totally got that, but Us was a little bit out there for me. So I don't know what to expect with Nope.
How do I put it? I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I like his films always has to have that gotcha. You know what I mean? Like this is not anything what you thought it was at the end of it, and like the thing that happens at the end. He and I were sitting in the theater and we were like, "What the hell?" Like, hey, it's like a weird. It's always got to have that gotcha moment of just like something strange that goes on right at the tail end. But it was good. Honestly, Nope, I think is my favorite of Jordan Peele's flicks.
Okay.
So far.
Then I gotta check it out.
it was pretty good.
Yeah, I would say. Sorry, I was gonna say Get Out was probably my first, and then Nope second, and then Us third. I agree. Like Us is just way too. I felt muddled by the end of the movie. I totally didn't understand like what's to come or what happened with the gotcha moment and all that. But with Nope again, if you wanted to check out Nope, it's just another like conceptual piece, and there's like it gives it's the type of fear that he offers in that movie is very different from the type of like horror that you would expect, I guess. Like he really just does his own type of subgenre of horror, I guess. So I mean that's how I would rank them. So sorry, Brad.
No, you're good. Real quick, Steve, are you a Halloween fan? I know you're a Texas Chainsaw fan, but
it's a love-hate thing with Halloween. I love the first 4 Halloween movies, and then the rest of them are like, I could take them or leave them. Yeah. And some of them I would just leave because
See,
I love all the first 4. I love the first 4, and even Halloween 3. A lot of people still hate Halloween 3. I love Halloween 3.
Yeah,
I think it's a great Halloween movie if you look at it as a Halloween movie and not a Michael Myers movie like people are insistent on doing, unfortunately, and will be until the end of time probably. But yeah, I really love the first 4, but the first one is still my favorite though.
Yeah,
the OG.
Yeah, I think the OG is everybody's favorite. Do you like what they've done with the Blumhouse trilogy stuff?
I like aspects. I really love James Jude Courtney as Michael Myers. I think it's kind of a shame though that he's in kind of sloppily written scripts.
Yeah.
They are kind of, I mean, I have hope for the new one. You guys mentioned the marketing for this one. The marketing seems like we've got something here, something to be invested in. But the first Halloween 2018, it was kind of not a lot of suspense. That kind of, it was just very,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And then Halloween Kills was kind of the same, but I don't know. There was a couple more suspenseful moments in Kills, I thought, but it was just so over the top with the kills. You know what I mean? It was just it felt too much. We were seeing too much of Michael Myers do these kills to me.
So you like the stalking Michael, right? Like the stalking, like deep in the shadows. Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. And that's something I've gathered with Halloween Kills and people that have like controversial takes on it and different takes on it, is because you pretty much just threw Michael Myers just right into the open, and even though it's in the dark, you see him full front, and people are trying to catch him kind of like a wild beast, and that's not really what Michael Myers is all about. He's all about hiding in the shadows. There's that one scene when I think Karen takes a mask and Michael is chasing after Karen, and he's just walking through the house in the shadows, and that's like the only scene that I can say is probably one of the most ominous view of what he is known as the Shape. You know what I mean? Like that one scene right there is about all we get in regards to like the stealthy Michael, or just walking through the shadows kind of saying, instead of like World War Michael, I guess you could say, for Halloween Kills.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I know we're not going to talk about Halloween the whole time. My biggest issue with Kills though was like I was kind of in your camp, Steve, where it's like 2018. I walked out and I was like, okay, like it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't a bad movie, but it also didn't like blow me away either. But Kills, like some of the dialogue in Kills is what got me, and it's not even necessarily the Evil Dies Tonight stuff. It's just like some of the things that were said. I'm like, really? Like that's really something that you would have said in a really tense, serious moment where people are scared and freaked. You know what I mean? It was strange. So real quick, before we talk about you and the Sawyer Massacre, let's go over the chat. Rosalia, what's up, Rosalia? She says, hello, Steve. Congrats on your film. How exciting. Can't wait to see it.
Oh, thank you so much.
The horror world, what's going on? Everybody's jealous of that. We want to see it too. Horror World says, hey Brad, there's a trailer for a TV show coming out to HBO Max called The Last of Us. I saw that. It looks absolutely insane. If you've have you played The Last of Us, Steve?
I have not.
Ooh, it's such a great it's a zombie game, but the storyline to it is just so tragic and so well written. Oh. It's incredible, and they're doing an HBO Max like live action adaptation of it. It's really great.
Oh, cool.
J Dead's here. What's going on, buddy? He says, hey yo guys and chatters. What's going on, buddy? So, Steve, let me ask you this. My first question to you is, why the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Like, what does that film mean to you? What captivates you about that story and those characters? Like, what kind of drove you to the Sawyer Massacre and into wanting to tell this story?
Ooh, I'll have to take you back with me a long ways in time. But all the way back to 2003. All the way back to 2003, and I've told this many times on many podcasts and whatnot. But in 2003, that's when the remake came out, and I was already a pretty big Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan at that point. But again, I knew that the series had a bunch of not so good sequels, and back in 2003, we didn't really have. I never had the internet or a computer or anything, and all we had were these short little 30-second TV spots that would come on TV. And when that first TV spot for Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake came on, I was like, oh my God, this looks awesome. Yeah. It looked awesome. This 30-second TV spot looked great. It had John Larroquette's narration. I was like, yes, I'm in. This is going to be better than the original. I thought to myself, being a young 23-year-old guy at the time, and thinking, oh my God, they outdid the original. Got to go see it. I was first in line to see that movie. And I got to admit, when the movie starts, it's like, whoa, this is pretty they've really stepped it up with all that police footage and everything that was happening, and it just got my expectations so high that when we got into the real meat of the film, I couldn't help but be let down. Because there was so much good about it, and there was so much not so good about it at the same time. It just made me it just got my creative mind thinking. Even though I had never worked in film at that point, I was a struggling musician. I wasn't even playing music professionally at that point. I was struggling. About a year later, I actually started making a living in music, but yeah, I was working in a bakery at that time. I was a baker, and so I hadn't even, gone anywhere as an artist at that point. So it kind of just sat in my brain for a little bit, and I just, started just thinking of what I would actually do if I was to do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. And eventually I had a bit of a story. And then from that story, I tried my hand at screenwriting. I had to learn the formatting and all that kind of stuff. And eventually I had a script that I don't think it was a very good script at that time, but, we're talking at least 10 years ago now at this point. But, enough encouragement was there that I should, try to get it made, and nobody wanted to make it for me. So it was like, Steve, why don't you try directing? And, it just kind of jumped into the whole thing.
That's awesome.
And I made my first Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan film about, nearly 10 years ago. It is terrible. It's not good at all. But it's where things kind of started with my film career. And it's been going ever since. And it's just, I like to think that I've improved with every project I've done. And I think I have. I
awesome.
Find I learn from every project I do. And it's weird for me to think that I've become a filmmaker when music was always sort of my first passion. But now music has kind of taken a back seat. Although I do compose a lot of the scores to my films and other people's films as well.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's really cool. I'm a music teacher, which I teach in a public school. But
awesome.
So that I thought it was really cool to look at I listened to some of your music online today. It's really good, man.
Oh, did you?
I like it. Yeah, I did.
Find any of it online? Probably my old recordings that aren't very good. I do have some newer stuff I've been trying to get out there, but just I'm picky. I don't want to release it until it's like perfect. Yeah.
So you had mentioned your first TCM fan film. Was that?
I used to be a music teacher as well.
Oh, really? That's awesome, dude.
Really How long were you teaching music?
I actually owned my own. I owned my own music school. Actually, it was a rock school. Actually, I'm wearing the old T-shirt for the old logo on it and everything.
That's
rock
awesome.
School.
Wow.
Yeah, I never was a fan of this logo. We actually changed the logo, I remember, but I still have a bunch of these shirts, and they fit me. So we just, I don't know. I still wear them, but I was
so cool, dude.
I did the music school for about I want to say 8 years. It was about 8 years before I finally kind of shut it down after my daughter was born. It was just getting too much to run it, and wasn't really that profitable. The business aspect is pretty tough sometimes.
Yeah,
it's usually that.
Anything with music business wise is it's tough. I was talking to somebody the other day about they were telling me that they were a trumpet player in Tennessee, I believe, and they were playing trumpet, and there was some guy they knew, they were playing in some symphony orchestra and in Tennessee, and he was like, if these guys who are legit can't make it, he was like, I don't know how I'm ever gonna, what I mean? So he was like, then the career change happened and stuff like that. So it's definitely it's a tough one, man. But you seem like you've done really well in it, so that's awesome.
I've done okay.
It's really good to see. So you had mentioned your first TCM fan film. Was that First Annual Barbecue?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I watched it the other day. Yeah, well, I was looking at your IMDb and I saw that on there and I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, I didn't know this existed. So I found it on YouTube and I was like, this is cool. I liked it. It was.
Oh, okay. I think you probably watched like the short version of it, like the 10-minute version.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the only one on YouTube. Is there a longer version?
There is a 30-minute. I actually found, I'm going to put it on YouTube eventually. I'm
Oh,
not putting
wow.
it on quite yet because I want the Sawyer Massacre to
Right.
drop first, because there
Right.
are a couple of little similarities. So I don't want to feel like I'm spoiling the Sawyer Massacre
I gotcha.
with the first annual barbecue, but I will release it because I did find it on a USB stick. I had
That's
a million
awesome.
USB sticks just lying around, and was looking through them one day. Hey, there's the Sawyer Massacre. So the full version is around 30 minutes.
That's cool. So is the Sawyer Massacre an expanded version of what that story was?
First annual barbecue was almost a first draft. It was
Okay.
like the first draft of the script. It was the first script I ever wrote, and I knew when I was when it came down to making it that I wasn't going to be able to afford to shoot the entire thing.
Yeah.
So I had to find a way to cut a lot out. And I think we cut, it was something like a 98-page script. It was a really long script. And I cut it down to 20 pages, so 22 pages or something like that.
Wow.
And so the version that I have is about 30 minutes long. So I mean, it kind of feels like a bit of a mess still, even at that 30-minute version. The version you would have seen probably seems like nothing. I mean, it's really just an event, and it's something happens. It's not really a story.
Right.
That's the thing. You can't when you try to turn a 98-page script into 5 or 6, 7 pages. It's just it doesn't really quite translate well.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about it though is like, even that little 10-minute clip, like you can tell though that like a lot of the elements are there. Like once they get into the house and like the Leatherface stuff, like that stuff is on point with what the original would have been. You know what I mean? So like that's why I say like I enjoyed those aspects of it, even seeing it in that, which especially like looking at the budget that you had for the Sawyer Massacre and looking at like, the fact that this is going to be a bigger version of that. Like I'm really, really excited to see like especially the Leatherface stuff and to see how that's handled, because you were talking about the 2003 remake, which I'm actually a pretty big fan of the 2003 remake. I mean,
I'm just a little hard on it because because it did so many things so well, but it gets brought down by these other elements, and it would take me a while to get into it. But it's certain things like the time period doesn't really feel like the time period for me, mostly because of the dialogue that the youngsters are speaking, and the clothes a lot of them are wearing too. Just really, they feel kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't feel authentic, I guess you would say. So it doesn't feel authentic. Yeah. So that, I think those are some of my biggest gripes. I actually don't really like the way Leatherface looks either in it.
Really?
I was gonna ask that, how you felt about Leatherface. Yeah.
Leatherface in the remake. Here's my problem with Leatherface in the remake. I don't really care for the mask, although I could be okay with the mask. It's the rest of the costume. He's in Texas in the middle of summer, and he's got layers and layers and layers of clothes that make him look like he's more of a monster rather than a real human being. And I think that's the biggest thing that separates the original from that movie is when Leatherface comes on screen for the first time in the original, he looks like a real person. He looks like somebody you're going to meet in Texas.
Yep.
And somebody you don't want
to meet in Texas.
Yeah.
But you can believe it though, right? You see it like this guy's real.
Right.
Whereas I never got that feeling with the 2003 remake version of Leatherface. Just
he almost seems like a final boss if you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Well, and you're right about it. Like he's got like it's like leather, like it's like thick leather stuff that he's got, like even the black, like the gloves that kind of go up his arm, and like all of the latches on the
too over the top. It was just too over the top. They did a better job in the beginning, although that movie suffers from a lot of anyways.
I wouldn't have that one either.
There's more problems with the beginning, I think, for sure. But I think they got a better Leatherface look in that film. But Yeah, I think that's one of the issues I have. Another one, I mean, this is a small issue, but it still is an issue. It's the fact that Leatherface isn't the scariest person in the film. Arlie Ermy is, and
Oh
he steals
yeah,
the show in
man.
that movie.
Oh
It's
yeah.
almost he's almost too good, you know. So it's kind of a love
Right.
hate thing there because I love his performance, but I want Leatherface to be the
Mhm.
scariest factor in the
It's
film.
it's almost like his character is Arnie Herman's character is like he's almost the main villain of the entire thing. You know what I mean? And it's like Leatherface is
Yeah.
kind of his henchman kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like that's
Mhm.
kind of how it presents it in that film.
Isn't that usually how Texas Chainsaw, like the original, was supposed kind of was? Because like
Kind of, yeah.
Leatherface was kind of like, you know, just a henchman, like, you know, kind of like a poor dog trying to like please its owner or its family, quote unquote. So like I kind of feel like he was always kind of like the henchman. He was always like that rabid dog that, like, if it breaks out of his leash, man, you better find like a fence to jump over because he's gonna get you or something like that. Yeah.
I think for me, no offense to Drayton or the hitchhiker, but like I liked the dad character in the remake better than I liked it. You know what I mean? Like his character had more, I think, to grab onto in the remake versus the other. You know, because we don't really learn like, and you might disagree with me on this, but like I feel like in the original TCM we don't necessarily learn very much about them personally. Like you learn what they're doing, obviously, but like as people and the way they, well, we do get a glimpse at the way that they live, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like we learn more about the reasoning, like especially even in the beginning when he's like, you know, he gives the whole, you know, nobody will ever mess with us again speech and all that stuff at the dinner table. And like, I don't know, they handled it a little bit differently with like how much they dove into the family aspect in the
I
2003 remakes.
agree. I think my personal thing with that though is that I'd rather not know. I'd rather
Right.
leave something up to the imagination. I feel like you did get enough interpretation. You had the hitchhiker saying about how they got put out of jobs
Yep.
basically with the new technology, and it was really a statement. It was really a statement about how technology is changing the world, and
Yeah.
not necessarily in a good way. So I mean, I kind of prefer that. I kind of prefer not knowing their names. You know, it's
Right.
I don't necessarily like knowing their names. It's ambiguity. It just makes them more mysterious, and it makes me fear them more. You know,
Yeah.
if I
It's
know
good.
if I know who's coming after me, there's an element of, well, I could probably report this person to the. But if I
Yeah.
don't know who the hell's stalking me, right?
Yeah.
If when you don't, you're being stalked, but you don't know
Right.
who it's by, and you can't call the police saying, somebody's stalking me, right? It's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I like it better in the original. These are these crazy people, and who the hell are they? And
Yeah.
what do they want? And the reveal of the cannibalism was so perfectly done. You could never do
Have
something
guessed
like
it.
that again.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you get the hints.
Right.
You have Sally when she's finally kind of escaped from Leatherface, and she's just hysterically a mess, and she's looking at that barbecue that's cooking in the
Yeah.
it's in the oven, and it's nothing said that this is human flesh, but you get that sense
Oh yeah.
that this must be. But then
Well,
it's confirmed when Grandpa's sucking her finger.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and
That's insane.
even with the hints, like it's still at the moment, like that even came to mind when she's strapped at the table and he's sucking on her finger, and they're trying to get Grandpa to hit her in the head or whatever at the end.
Mhm.
Like it's almost still just as shocking when you realize it's like, holy crap, they're really doing
This
that.
is
You know what I
really
mean? It's
being
like
yeah.
it confirms your worst fear. But
Mhm.
Anyway, all of that to say, I'm really excited what you're going to do with the Leatherface character and how you're going to treat that.
Well, all I can say is I
Because
tried to be as true to the character, to the original intent of the character as I possibly could. I do
Right.
think we could have executed some things a little better. For sure, we could have. Some of it, was beyond our control.
Mhm.
Like we had an SFX artist that bailed on us a month before filming,
Oh,
and it was like, when are you going to get these masks done? We barely got the masks done in time, but part of me feels like they're kind of rushed, and they still look pretty cool, but at the same time, there's something I needed with those masks, and it's like, does it come through? Does it come through? And I'm probably gonna have to like do a whole explanation video or something on the Leatherface masks, because there's 4 of them in our film. There's 4 of them. I really like the original where he's wearing the different masks to put on a different personality.
Yes.
I love that aspect, and none of the other films ever acknowledged that. At least not to my knowledge. I mean, I don't really see it in any of the other films. Well, I guess Next Generation kind of does. Next Generation kind of does, but it's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
It's just so bizarre that let's forget about that.
and that's kind of what I was going to say. And Miguel, you can even chime in on this too. But like, I feel like none of the other films have ever really captured what, like, the essence of, and I know there's other characters too, like, the Drayton's character and the Hitchcock. Like, I know that there are aspects of those characters that are important too, but Leatherface is such an interesting character because he is this, hideous human being that's doing these awful things. But like, even at the end, when they're kind of yelling at him and stuff, and what you had just mentioned with the different personalities, there's a piece of you that almost kind of feels bad for him, which is really weird to say. I've always felt that way. Like they treat him like crap. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Do you agree with that, or?
Oh, I do. I mean, he's definitely in the original. He's definitely got a lot of fear in him. He definitely fears his brother, his older brother, I guess. It's never been fully confirmed that Drayton is his brother, but I mean, most of the stuff I see says that they are brothers. But so I mean, he's definitely been conditioned to do what his family has essentially told him to do.
Right.
And that's all he knows. And yes, is he still a guilty person yet for doing what he's doing? Yes, of course he is. He's right. I mean, but at the same time, you can kind of sympathize a little bit with him because, he never really had a choice.
Yeah.
But you could definitely tell watching the original, that's one thing I really picked up on, is that he really loves his grandpa. And Grandpa was the best killer there ever was.
Right. Yeah.
And I really tried to focus on that relationship in this film.
That's cool. That's awesome.
You're gonna definitely see a cool Leatherface grandpa relationship, I think, in this film.
That's awesome. We didn't get any John Dugan in there, did we?
We did. We did get John Dugan for our first 2 Indiegogo teasers, because we had him do the voiceover of Grandpa, because Grandpa talks in our film. It's it's set 8 years before.
Wow.
So that was one of the first things I ever did back in 2019 was approach John Dugan and say, hey, if I give you a few bucks, would you say a few lines for me that, for promotional purposes? And, I think that was definitely something that did help us too. I think people thought, hey, John Dugan was on board to do this. He would have been on board to actually be in the film if it wasn't for a personal reason. And that personal reason is, I mean, I think I can say, I don't think he's going to mind if I say, but it is basically because Kim Henkel is his brother-in-law. And, he doesn't want to offend him in any way. Kim Henkel's been very nice to John over the years. And by being in a fan film, that might dampen their relationship. I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that Kim Henkel would see our film,
Yeah.
And maybe he will. He probably will at some point. He'll probably see our film at some point. But, I would have loved to have John Dugan in it. But we got a pretty damn good grandpa nonetheless, I would say.
That's cool. That's really cool, man. And that is an interesting relationship. Their whole family dynamic is very interesting, and it's something that, like, I even I'm going to be honest with you. You might leave the show after I say this. I'm going to be completely honest with you, but I actually, out of all of the sequels, and we're just kind of on my mind since we've been talking the sequels and the remake and things like that, but I'm actually not completely opposed to what they did with Texas Chainsaw 3D. It had I know. See, he's about to leave. It's gonna happen.
No, I'm not gonna leave, but
like it's not great. It's not by any means, I don't think, a great horror sequel, but there were elements to that, like at the beginning, seeing what happened with the family, that kind of, it felt at least a little bit, not necessarily what they did with the granddaughter and all that stuff, but like it felt a little bit, at least it felt, that opening flashback scene was at least, I feel like it felt more like the original film than what some of the other sequels did, if that makes sense.
the opening scene, sure. I mean, I still have some issues with that opening scene as
right.
well.
I do as well.
I think the opening scene felt like it was written the way it should be. I think what I don't like about it is actually some of the production choices, like the way that Leatherface looked, the way Grandpa looked. You know, they didn't make Grandpa look like, you have John Dugan still doing it, and I'm like trying to look at that Grandpa compared to the Grandpa in the original. They looked nothing alike.
Yeah,
you know. And I don't know what the hell they did with the Leatherface mask in that scene.
Yeah,
it just
and
looks so wonky.
That
I've seen
movie,
cosplayers like do way better jobs, you know.
Yeah, that movie is not perfect by any means. I just there are elements to it that I to be an understatement, right?
Everybody seems, the majority of people that hate that movie, and I am one of them. I don't like the movie. I saw it in theaters, and I felt like
I did too.
I felt dirty for spending money on that movie. I felt like I did. I walked out like I said to myself, I'm a total prick for watching this, because I knew it was going to be bad from watching the trailers. But I went and watched it anyways. But I said, never again. Am I going to do that again? Watch a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film in theaters just because it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film.
Right.
But anyways, most of the people that do hate that film is because of the timeline thing, which honestly, sure, it's an issue. You can bring it up, but at the same time, is that really the worst thing about that film? How about the dialogue?
There's plenty more. Yeah, there's plenty more to talk about.
Do your thing, cuz.
How about some of that acting? Where she's like, the black guy's like, did you hit it? Did you hit it? And she's like, I don't know. And then again, did you hit it? I don't know. I thought that was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And some of the plot stuff like that was going on, I was like, why would they do this? They picked up that hitchhiker that they've never met before, very shady guy, pretty much right off the bat. And then they get to this mansion, and they leave the hitchhiker guy to roam the mansion by himself while they go out and cruise the town. So why would you leave this guy you've never met in a mansion full of probably tons of priceless stuff, and it just the common sense just I don't know, I'm shaking my head at stuff like that. It just
common sense is hard to find in horror movies. Say that much. There's a lot of choices made in horror movies.
Hey, there's probably a few little things in our film too that they probably should have done this instead of I don't think it's quite that bad though, but it does it's hard to avoid every little cliche,
right?
But it's, our film's not perfect, but our film was only made on a fraction of the budget that film was.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and even I will, and again, might be super, super controversial to you and anybody who's listening to this. If I had to pick right now, like gun to my head, I have to pick between Texas Chainsaw 3D and Texas Chainsaw Massacre that we got last year. I honestly think I might pick 3D. I really do.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
I was not a fan of the Fede Alvarez produced film. I hated the way he looked in that film.
Are you talking about 2022?
I didn't mind the way he looked. I actually didn't mind the way he looked.
I didn't like it. I don't know what it was.
Yeah. I didn't like the hair on the mask. I think the mask face itself looked kind of creepy, but the hair was like a skullet thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing I disliked the most on it, was the hair. But I thought, this kind of reminds me of Leatherface though. So,
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
he kind of did
I didn't
away
like
with
the
like
new one
the whole.
either, but I think for me, I guess it was a movie I could kind of turn my brain off a little bit and just watch,
Right. Yeah.
knowing that there's a lot of terrible stuff. The shorter runtime, I think, helps it in that regard.
Yeah.
And you
And
can
like the
kind of just
bust
have
scene was
fun with
cool.
some of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The gore and stuff was cool.
Yeah.
It didn't, and I guess this is kind of hypocritical because again, I'm not in love with 3D. I'm not saying it's like my favorite, you know what I mean, film in the franchise, but I don't know. I largely felt like this newest one just didn't feel Texas Chainsaw, like, other than Leatherface. It just didn't have. I didn't feel like it was connected. It didn't feel like.
I can definitely agree with that.
And
And
they
hey,
marketed
man,
that.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. You continue.
They marketed that film as like, oh, we're going back to the roots. It's gonna be like the OG. And I was just like, really? Like halfway through, I was like,
What a
this
load of
doesn't
crap,
feel
right?
anything like the original at all.
Yeah.
Like you kind
I
of
mean,
end up like rooting for him for Leatherface for the duration of the film. Like as soon as his mother or caretaker died, like you almost kind of rooted for Leatherface just to tear up the entire town, and that kind of like does away with like the horror aspect of it, because it's like, why am I rooting for this serial killer? Because like you have all these gentrifying people like trying to like renew the town. Like the whole storyline like throughout the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just I don't know, it didn't hit the mark for me as well. It wasn't like the group of kids that just come up on this house or come up to this location and all of a sudden they're hunted by Leatherface. It's just like, oh, you're gonna take away Leatherface's habitat or place that he lives, his home, and now Leatherface is like the hero of the movie at this point. But that's kind of where I felt. So I kind of like, there was no sense of like horror in this movie. It was just like, here's a bunch of gore against all these teenagers, and
it was just
have at it.
The silly fun kind of thing. If you went into that movie to try to be scared, I mean, at least you could say they tried that with the remake. I feel like they tried to give you some suspense and stuff. There were some suspenseful moments. I think there were some really stupid things that happened, but at the same time, I feel like there was at least some scary moments in that movie. Whereas there's no scary moments in the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was just a ride. And that's what I kind of went into it with, that mindset. And maybe that's why I didn't hate it. But when I look at it as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, it's terrible. It really is. There's so many things bad about it. I mean,
well, I don't know why
why did they have to set it in 2022?
That's true. That's very true.
So they could live stream it. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, when he's sitting there with the chainsaw and they all just go. I was like, oh my God, man. Like, really? Why?
I was like, zero horror right there. I was gonna ask though, in regards to like the legacy characters, what did you think about Sally coming back? Like, did you like the end of her story? I know Brad dislikes it wholeheartedly, but I know a lot of people liked it.
It was, here's the thing. If you remove Sally from the entire movie, you still have the same movie.
Yep.
When you look at it, there's nothing different. There's really, I mean, I think the lady that played Sally was fine. I think she's okay. I think what she had to do was stupid. The way she died was stupid. The way she confronted Leatherface was stupid, where she's like, say my name, say my name, bitch. And I was like, why are you saying that? Just shoot the freaking guy.
They're sitting in the bed and just staring at the shotgun and like, say my name. Like, no.
And here's the thing. I don't believe that Sally from the original would have done that. I just don't believe that the same Sally from the original, she would have just guns a-blazing. She would have been so hysterical that she found that guy after all these years that it would have just been guns blazing. He's not going to say her name. The guy doesn't
would have never returned.
Anyways. And
would have never returned to that town point blank.
Yeah,
I think I know
something like that. No.
I know they tried to do the Laurie Strode thing, like what they've done with this, with the new Blumhouse trilogy and stuff. But like Lori and Sally are two very different characters. Like
Very different. Oh yeah.
Lori was obviously scared in the original, and she, you know, she was scared and she was kind of flying by the seat of her pants, but she also had this like protect the kids mentality, and you know what I mean? Like she had a little bit of that like inner strength because she wanted to protect them and she wanted to get, Sally, I mean, let's face it, Sally was literally, I mean, she went like, and it's obvious at the end of the film when she's on the back of the truck and he's just yelling and waving the chainsaw at the end of the movie. Like, she's just hysterical. Like, that's, the
Yep.
laughing and the crying. And it's just, I mean, she's hysterical. Like, I don't think that Sally would have, aged to be this like super badass chick who's like got shot, who's got 6 shotguns in the back of her truck. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't see that character as,
I totally agree. Like I've always said with the original, I feel like that's the end of Sally's story. Personally, I feel like, how would she have lived her life after experiencing what she experienced? Yes. When you see her at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and she's hysterical the way she is, do you really think she had any kind of a life after that?
No.
The end of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is kind of brilliant for it because it gives you it's kind of a sucker punch. Yeah, it's like she 100%. Got away, and you're rooting for her to get away, but then she gets away, and it's like,
how do you come back from
what
that?
Has she got left? What is she? What has she got? How is she going to make? How is she going to make a life out of this? How do you live with that trauma? That's like the worst kind of trauma you could ever experience.
Yeah. How do you possibly close your eyes and go to sleep after seeing that?
Exactly. Yeah, no level of therapy or medication can take care of what happened during the events of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's one thing that's powerful about it. Again, you because you do root for her to get away that whole time, but when she does, it's kind of like, well, she got away, but did she really?
Yeah,
and because she didn't. She did, but she didn't. It's gonna stay with her forever. And like, how would have she lived off the rest of her life? There's a good chance. I think there was a good chance the character would have committed suicide at some point. Very good chance.
100%.
Or spent the rest of her days in a mental hospital. Something like that. I think that's pretty much where Sally would be after that film. Yeah. Not some sort of Texas Ranger out for revenge, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I get the angle they're going for, and I get why they did it. I just don't agree with it. I think they went off the formula of Halloween 2018 because it was successful, but didn't take into account that Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween are two very, very different films with very, very different characters. You have to take those things into account.
Yeah.
If I were to take into account that you had the original actors returning for Halloween 2018, and that was something that got people on board. You didn't have that opportunity with this movie.
Yeah.
I think that was something that was going on with all of the more recent remakes of these horror movies, is that since the events of like Halloween 2019, everybody wants to make remakes with their legacy characters and try to make a new story out of something. And in reality, each one of these horror movies that back then, like each one of them had their own themes. Like if I had to put Halloween in a box and Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a box, vastly different themes. You have chaos on one hand, ominous on the other. And it's really hard to give Sally like that like redemption arc in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because it's almost like after the events of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like she survived, but her sanity died in that house, like wholeheartedly. Like, yes, I agree. Like she would not have survived after the events of like trying to recover from that. Like, no, she died off screen somewhere, like reeling over this traumatic event. As compared to Laurie Strode, who, for all she knows, it was a serial killer to try to kill her. It wasn't like she was stuck in a dirty house with a bunch of like hooks and dead people and cannibals trying to eat her and stuff like that. Like, there's certain levels of traumatic events that can send someone on a different path. So to force Sally into being this like Sarah Connor ish kind of woman kind of like throws the whole theme of what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is, which is like there's no way in hell
Say
you can
my
survive the
name.
events of it. Yeah, there's no way in hell you can survive anything that happens in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it's
No.
any characters you introduce, they're basically sent to slaughter pretty much. Like there's really no way to survive any of that. So
Yeah. You know who's really the most tragic character in the original film, right?
Who's the most tragic character in the original film?
The damn
They're all
chicken
pretty
in
tragic,
the damn chicken that's in the cage in the living room that had to watch all of that happen. That chicken's like,
it's like, is it gonna be my time? Oh wait, they eat humans, so I guess I'm good.
Yeah.
I guess I'm
There's
like a
like
parrot.
dead
I don't
chicken
know.
carcasses everywhere. They're probably looking at that. And...
Yeah.
J-Dad said the remake should have ended with Leatherface being moved into a rent-controlled apartment in downtown Austin.
Section
Could you
8.
imagine?
Section 8.
Yeah, he's in Section 8 housing. So let's do this. We've talked a lot about the franchise. Is there any more to your like horror beginning, Steve? Like, where did your journey with the horror genre, and even like past that, if you'd like what are some of the films that left an impact on you, not only as a filmmaker but as a movie lover as well?
Strictly horror, or just any kind of genre.
Either or.
I mean, I think the first film that ever really probably struck a chord as with me as maybe wanting to become a filmmaker was probably Jaws. I saw Jaws when I was 8 years old, and I just, I became obsessed with it. I've probably seen Jaws more than any other film I have ever seen.
It's up there for me too.
Yes. It's definitely in my top 5 films of all time, for sure. And Spielberg is hands down my favorite filmmaker. I was just gonna say that. I mean, I don't love every film he's made,
right?
But I can still respect every film he's made, and he's done so much. He's done everything, 100%. And he did it all. He did it all his own way, and I gotta give props to that. I don't think any filmmaker has really quite done it like Spielberg has.
No.
In my opinion, anyways. I mean, it's all subjective at the end of the day, but Jaws was sort of the first real film that got me intrigued with filmmaking, I think, at a very young age. But it's not the only movie that's inspiration. I love all kinds of movies. The Godfather was another huge inspiration as far as filmmaking goes. The storytelling, I guess, with a film like that, it's more storytelling. It sort of got me more into the screenwriting aspect of a film, because I just love the story. I love how, and I can relate that story to another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Yeah.
Which Texas Chainsaw Massacre is kind of a copy of The Godfather, story structure wise.
Which one?
Are you asking which
really
one?
Think about it. There's a Texas Chainsaw, a pretty recent one actually, that I feel like they basically just copied the story of The Godfather.
Brad, you must have the answer for that one, don't you?
You're not talking about 3D, are you?
No, I'm not talking about 3D. If you really think about it, Leatherface that came out after 3D.
Oh, see, I would have to be completely honest, I would really have to rewatch that one to really like let it soak in, because I feel like I watched part of it. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know that I've even seen the entire thing.
Oh, it's not good.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those movies I never really cared to go back and like, I really want to sit down and watch this. Like, I saw part of it.
I mean, essentially, the writer took Michael Corleone's story arc and gave it to Leatherface. In The Godfather, you've got Michael Corleone that doesn't like what his family's doing.
Right.
Beginning of that one, Leatherface doesn't like what his family's trying to do and make him do, and blah blah blah, and he gets sent away, and he basically disowns his family and all this stuff, and then he gets away, but eventually by the end of the story, he becomes what his family. He becomes Leatherface, the killer in his family, kind of like how Michael Corleone eventually becomes the Godfather.
Right.
I mean, the big difference really is that it took a 3-hour movie really to tell Michael Corleone's story.
Exactly. Yeah.
How it was a transition that was seamless. He was this young innocent character that didn't want anything to do with it, and all these little events eventually turned him into the Michael Corleone he was at the end.
Yeah.
Whereas in Leatherface, it was just all of a sudden his buddy gets killed and he's bad. Now he loves his family. We don't, he hated his family. Now he loves his family. And it's just, I hated it.
Yeah.
How about said, if you wanted a better story,
like
you could have let. What if Leatherface was like 3 hours long and you actually like went through the whole process of of his life?
Here's the thing. That story was good for a movie like The Godfather. It's not good for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No,
we're not turning Texas Chainsaw Massacre into a crime drama here. It's a horror movie. It's a
No. It's like making a movie it's like trying to make a movie something that it's not. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre is definitely one of those movies that you really can't put any other type of story and make it like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or call it Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah. Too unique is the word I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I have really fond memories of The Godfather because like I've got Italian roots in me, and like my grandfather used to watch it all the time. I mean, it was it was that just there were a few films that were just like on a constant just like cycle in their house. I mean, he could practically quote every line in The Godfather. I mean, it was a big deal. So, and another thing, kind of talking about the conception of this, and I've always wondered about it. I've seen what a lot of people have done with Indiegogo campaigns, and I'm really glad that we have you on to ask you this. And I would also love to get, like Dave McRae and Bruce Dales, from It's Me, Billy, like their, perception of this, but, Vince DeSanti, all those guys who are doing these great fan films like yourself. But, so you've got the idea, you've got the script and the passion, and the pieces are there, but what is your mindset going into the crowdfunding campaign? And like, how on earth do you even approach that? Because like, obviously it seems like a massive feat in and of itself, like the undertaking of shooting and making the movie, let alone that, like the crowdfunding part just seems like it would be completely overwhelming to me.
It's a lot. I'm not going to sugarcoat the crowdfunding part. It took a lot out of me. And the thing is, I'm still doing it because I'm trying to break even on this movie. I'm still like $2,000 in the hole from this movie, so I still got my Indiegogo up. But it took a lot of work. It was definitely a lot of work, especially for somebody like me who was not really well known. I didn't have a ton of film credentials. I have a couple awards so that I did win on a short film. But other than that, I mean, I didn't really have a lot to show, so I had to rely on my proof of concept, the trailer, the marketing, and just really networking as much as I possibly can. It really is a full-time job.
Oh yeah.
Create your social media pages. You have to have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You have to be on the Slasher app if it's a horror film. You have to have a good YouTube channel. It is a lot, and I learned a lot from the very first campaign I did, because the very first campaign we did, we didn't raise that much. We only raised, in Canadian dollars, it was $4,700. I think that's less than $4,000 in US dollars. So we didn't raise a lot. And I went out of it thinking, well, we got money, we can do something here. We'll do another campaign. And that's when I said, well, why don't we get some of our actors that we actually cast in Texas and, get some actual authentic Texas footage. I took a bit of a gamble there because that cost me a little bit of money that, I was, it wasn't like I spent the entire Indiegogo funds on that, but I spent a portion of it. And we made that trailer, and thank God it took off. It just although we still didn't, it still wasn't an overnight success or anything like that. I really pushed it. The next campaign still did not reach its goal. It came close. It was like 75%. So it was a lot better than the first campaign, but it just I learned a lot more on that second campaign. I learned that. I think the second campaign, I really learned about the networking part. I really knew that I had to, become friends with a lot of people in the industry and a lot of horror fans and chat with them. And I think that's a huge thing that people doing this really know that they have to do. You got to be interactive with people. You really got to be interactive with people.
Right.
Because that's how you build relationships. You actually got to build relationships with people. And if you're not there to build relationships, they're going to see that. They're a little unfriendly, and they'll be like, you're just posting your shit all the time. So you have to actually build relationships. That's important.
For sure.
And you know what? I'm glad I did, because man, I've met some awesome people in the process. I'm so glad, because half the people on my friends list, I didn't realize were such awesome people, and until you start chatting with them, and some of them actually end up being in your film and stuff like that. It's really, really cool. I would never take that back. That was great. I actually kind of really loved the networking part of it, because I've met so many awesome people.
Right.
But yeah, it's a learning process, and you just got to keep doing it until you get it. Ultimately, that's all I can say. Look at other Indiegogo campaigns. Make sure your Indiegogo campaign looks good. It's got to look professional. Again, and having a good trailer is, having a good pitch video of some kind is going to go a long way. So I think that was some of the keys to our success, for sure.
You do have the one open, right? I think. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
We've done 4 Indiegogos now. Yeah, that's a recent one. Yeah.
Is this the current one then?
That looks like the current one. Yes.
Okay. So I went ahead and I threw that link in the chat. A couple people were asking for that. So yeah, if the link is in the chat now, so go check that out.
And we have a perk to watch the movie now. If anybody just can't wait till October 21st, that's been a popular perk. We have only got a few left though, so
that's awesome.
Get it while you can.
Very
get
cool.
it while you can.
And listen, I wanted to, dude. This poster is absolutely spectacular.
Isn't that awesome?
That's a great poster.
That is awesome.
That is a really, really costs you thousands of dollars, though.
Yeah, it looks so good, though.
It is a great poster, and that's done by Joe Lawrence of I believe his company's called More Sense Designs. You can find him on Instagram under Fangoria Faithful. I think that's a horror group that he does.
Yeah, even that one. So he great.
Designed. Yeah, I did that one.
Really?
That was right after right after I received the first mask, which I had actually done here in Canada. I just took a picture of the mask in my attic using the very lights that I have shining on me right now. Just lit it and just took a picture with my phone, and a little bit of Photoshop, a little bit of color, and that's what you got. It was like this is my cool. was kind of my tribute to the remake poster, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And
very cool, man.
People liked it. I thought it was kind of goofy at first, but then everybody seemed to really like it. So we kept that as an option for a poster.
Yeah, I've seen.
Well, the fandom's loving it. I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah, a few people in the chat have even said, "Is that that poster behind you that we were just looking at? Is that available to buy?
This one or this one?
the one with the red chainsaw. The
red chainsaw. Yes.
Yeah. Is that available to purchase on that Indiegogo?
It is, yes.
Awesome.
It's the official poster. That is the official poster. This is what we call it the retro remake poster for this one. So, yeah, both are available. Cool. Both are available in, I'm going to forget my sizes. I think 9x17 and 24x36. So you can get them the big poster or the small one. This is a small one. This is the 11x17, I think. 11x17 and 24x36 up there.
That's awesome. So yeah, if you're watching after the fact, that link is in the it's in the chat. So go check that out, man. Support these guys any way you can. So where did you all actually film in Texas?
We did. We did, which ate up a little bit of our budget to do that, but authenticity was important to me. I really wanted to film in Texas. Sure. I knew that a lot of the the films now aren't being made in Texas. So
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I don't think I could be wrong on this, so don't quote me on this, but I don't think any of the films outside of the original have been filmed 100% in Texas. I think that a lot of them have done some work in studios in LA and stuff like that in Hollywood, at least sort of their B-roll or the reshoots or whatever they have to do. So even like the remake, I believe at least some of that was shot in LA, and which you understand is totally understandable, because it's expensive to go out on location to film again when you have to do reshoots, especially. But second unit usually always shoots in a sound stage,
Well, and Rosalia said, "Where in Texas?" Like, I don't know. Are there any of the original shooting locations even like still around? Or I think the gas station is, right. Did you
gas
guys,
station?
were you able to hit up any of those?
You know what? It was my goal to be able to film at the gas station. Could be because it was in the script. The gas station is part of our film. But the owners of the gas station would not let us film there. And it's nothing to, it's not, I think there's probably, I don't know. I'm speculating that there's some legalities behind filming there. I don't know. But they wouldn't let us do it. I had a lot of connections to them. I still have connections to our production managers, like really good friends with them. But I think they just not allowed to because of the name and all that kind of stuff. Right. So unfortunately, we had to find another gas station, which we did in Taylor, Texas. This was all around Austin, basically. All our filming was in the Austin area, not actually in Austin. But so the original gas station is in Bastrop, which is actually where the majority of the crew were staying that came from outside of Texas.
Oh, cool.
We were staying. We had a wonderful shout out to our host in Bastrop, Christine Alverson. She hosted, I think 10 or 11 of us over the entire period. Crew. Saved us on hotel bills and everything like that.
That's
I think some of us got sick of each other after a while, our roomie would, nobody wanted to be around me, I'll tell you that much, but it's all good.
Well, I'm sure the filming of your film couldn't have been any worse than the original. There were no dead corpses. I would be arrested if it was that bad.
Yeah,
there's no way you could
fly.
Do that today.
That does not fly in today's society, unfortunately. And we would have been shut down if half the stuff that happened in that movie took place. They should have been shut down. But
if I remember, it didn't Gunnar Hansen, or they said that Gunnar Hansen like smelled so bad that they were like they stayed away from him, I think, for the majority of it.
I'm gonna come clean here, and I think I did come clean with some of the cast on this. I purposely did not shower very much during my time in Texas so I could give a little bit of that,
I get it.
I don't know if it worked,
troops kind of thing.
I don't know if it actually worked. I don't know. Nobody complained, but maybe they're just, but I said that to them at the premiere that I maybe showered 3 times for the entire 3 weeks that I was in Texas, just to try to create some bad smells on set, so that, just to sort of, dampen that atmosphere, get people in that same sort of mindset. But I don't think it really worked. I don't know. I don't think it did. But it doesn't help that it was actually quite cold when we filmed.
Really? That's interesting.
It was March. A lot of early mornings in Texas in March were surprisingly cold. It was a lot colder than I had expected anyway. I wasn't really prepared for it. I mean, no snow or anything like that, but it's really cold and windy. It was really windy. I don't think it shows too much on film, but I wish we had somebody always on set applying fake sweat to our actors, and we didn't have anybody doing that. The SFX artist we had was only available for like 3 of the shooting days, 3 or 4.
Wow.
And it was mostly the basement stuff. Yeah.
Did you have a lot of night shots in your movie? Like, is it primarily like during the nighttime? Because there's something like I was gonna say because Texas is like very like has a very it can give like a very ominous because I remember in the first Texas Chainsaw like in the dark it's like very mysterious and very dreadful just like the feeling
Oh
and
yeah.
atmosphere you have there. So I didn't know if you like did you ever like have a lot of scenes there in the dark?
Not a lot. We did have some, but and I
Mm-hmm.
think they turned out great actually. The scenes that we did have, most of our scenes are in. I think the majority of our scenes are interior.
Okay.
So we didn't really have a lot of to work with. Even when we shot at night, I think sometimes we did shoot day for night in inside and night for days at some points in other scenes, just because we couldn't keep up with the continuity of the lighting and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
we made alterations in post wherever we had to, but not a lot. There's one chase scene that takes place at night, and it's not a huge part of the movie. It's like maybe 2 minutes long, but it looks great.
Yeah.
Part of me wishes it was longer because it does look great, and yeah, but
Yeah. I will say that the nighttime scenes in both the original chase scene and Jessica Biel's chase scene towards the end of the film in the remake, I think they're my two favorite moments in that. I mean, like the original, I have two favorite moments. I think it's that chase scene where, and it's a long chase scene when he kills Franklin, and then she runs through the. I mean, it's like a back and forth cat and mouse thing between them for a pretty.
that was
I don't know exactly how long it is, but
it's pretty
it's
long. I didn't want to recreate that. Part of me wishes I had a slightly longer one than we have, but definitely didn't want to recreate that. And they shot that. I know that in the original they would have shot that at least over 2 nights, at least
Mm-hmm.
2 8-hour nights. And I only would say that for sure because I don't know it for a fact, but I imagine it must have been because there's 2 different locations. There's the house and there's the gas station. Well, I know for a fact the gas station is in Bastrop, Texas, and the house at that time was in Round Rock, Texas, and it's about an hour commute. It's at least an hour commute. It's doubtful that they would have drove in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
An hour away to go from the gas station to the house. So
Right.
it was at least a 2-night shoot. There's no way I couldn't see that being less than that. But I mean, it's possible. I mean, but back in those days with the equipment you would have had and stuff like that, I don't think that would have been possible back then.
Yeah. Well, Jada, you bring up a good point too. The chase scene in the OG was my favorite scene. Love that blue tint. Well, not only you get like the what I love about it is it's a great scene anyways, but you have that moonlight lighting, kind of like what the original Halloween did, like that same kind of blue. It's not blue, but it kind of gives you that blue like aura, the moonlight.
Yeah.
But you also like there's obviously the fog, but you also get the smoke from the chainsaw, like if you would put too much oil in it, kind of thing, and you get that extra smoke coming out. Like it's just that the combination of those elements made that scene so great. I mean, there's one shot when it's like Sally is running towards the camera, and Leatherface just like emerges from the woods behind her when they're chasing each other, and that scene is just like God, like it's such a good shot. It's one of my favorite shots from the entire franchise.
It is a great shot.
And we're kind of talking.
He's getting closer and closer all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, and we're kind of talking about the style, like and we brought up Halloween a minute ago. Like in the original Halloween, or I should say, like Halloween, or I guess TCM came first, so really, vice versa. But you know what I'm saying. It's such a unique stylistic piece. Like with it's so atmospheric and it's very vivid in terms of like you can almost like the opening scene. That's another great shot of at the cemetery where the thing is kind of the skull is propped up and like you feel the heat and that dry heat at the beginning, like even in the interiors, and imagining what the rooms inside of the Sawyer house must have smelt like how do you like I know, right? You can just imagine the grossness. I can just
imagine.
How do you go about like recreating that aesthetic and that environment? Because that has to be like that had to have been a pretty big thing kind of going through your head, right? About recreating
a little bit
that
for
feel.
sure. I mean, here's the thing though, is I knew from the get-go that we couldn't recreate it. I knew
Right.
you never could recreate that stuff from the original. It's very unique in its own regard.
Mhm.
And our film doesn't take place in the same location other than the gas station. The gas station is the only place it's supposed to be more or less the same, even though it's a completely different gas station.
Yeah.
But we wanted to set ours at Grandpa's house, so I just kind of said, let's make our own. Let's make it our own,
Right.
and draw inspiration from other areas instead.
Mm-hmm.
And my inspiration for Grandpa's house was actually not Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was actually the house from the end of the Blair Witch Project. That was my biggest inspiration.
Oh, okay.
That was my biggest. That house was a little bit more abandoned than I really saw for Grandpa's house, but at the same time, the way it looked, the layout, the narrow hallways, the what's in this room, every room is so small and it just claustrophobic feel. Like when the end of that movie comes, it just feels so claustrophobic. I just love it. And I almost, a part of me always said, I just feel like Leatherface is going to come out of nowhere, and it does feel like it. I mean, I just feel like Leatherface could just come out and just all of a sudden, holy shit,
Yeah.
And I thought they were a perfect marriage. So that was my inspiration for Grandpa's house more than anything else was the Blair Witch Project house, which is long gone. And that was where was that anyways? Memphis or some damn thing.
I don't know where they filmed that.
Was it Maryland? Sorry, Burkittsville, Maryland. So I think it actually was filmed in Maryland. I have to do my research on that. I don't know if Burkittsville actually exists or anything like that, but But I'm pretty sure it was actually filmed.
Seneca Creek State Park in Montgomery County, Maryland, is where the majority of Blair Witch was filmed.
There you go.
Yeah.
And is that the only movie? Is that the only movie that you kind of take inspiration from, the Blair Witch, or is there other movies that you've kind of like?
I took other inspiration, obviously, from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and even the remake. You're gonna see some elements of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake in our film. You're gonna see where I drew some inspiration because, like I said, I love certain elements of that movie.
Right.
Yeah,
and I sound like I probably hate it. I don't. I wish it was better. I wish it was better. It's like, oh, I wish they didn't do that. Why did they have to do that? I keep saying that, but but there's so many things in it that are great. So you will see some inspiration from the remake in the movie. Not a ton, but a little bit. Other inspirations, that's probably about it. That's probably about it. I don't.
Yeah.
As much as I like other horror films like Halloween and Black Christmas, and I love those films, but I feel like they're different types of films.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some slightly more suspenseful moments, but I don't know. I think the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre had its suspenseful moments too.
Well, and that was something, again, it makes me even more excited to see what you're doing in the Sawyer Massacre, because even going back to first annual barbecue, like one of the things that I think I even texted it to you, Miguel, like one of the things that I thought when I was watching that is like, this feels like you're boxed in, like it's so claustrophobic and there's nowhere to go. And even looking at the original, like the kitchen, when Sally's strapped down, you're getting the close up on her face and she's screaming and they're laughing and doing whatever. Like that it's not a very big room that they're in. You know what I mean? It really, the house is not massive. And that sense of claustrophobia, like it almost makes it more scary when, if it's a big room, you have places to go and, you can kind of strategize a little bit and try to find a way out. But when it's that claustrophobic, you got nowhere to go, you're not getting away from that. So
and I just wanted to create this sense that, Leatherface could just come out of anywhere. Right. You don't know. And he's there somewhere. Where the fuck is he though? And I wanted to kind of create that sort of feel. That Leatherface is maybe a little bit more stealthy than not. I don't want to say like Michael Myers or anything, but he knows to shut off his chainsaw when he should shut off his chainsaw.
Yeah. And he I'm sure he knows that house very well. So he knows every single nook and cranny to hide from. So
yeah.
like I can believe that, and I'm excited to see it. The jump scares I'm sure are going to be top notch.
We don't have a lot.
They don't have a lot. Okay.
I'm not a big fan of jump scares. So, and when I do, I like payoff.
Okay.
I'm not going to say
Right.
there's no jump scares. There's
Mhm.
some, but I'm very few and far between when it comes to jump scares. I mean, the original really only had one real jump scare, and that's when he comes out and kills Franklin.
Yeah.
Right.
There's some of them are kind of. I mean, I guess the first kill is kind of jump scary-ish, but I don't know. You kind of see it coming though too. So it's just it's more of a reveal rather than a jump scare. So
I got
yeah.
you.
So I mean, I'm not a big fan of jump scares, but I like a jump scare when it's done right. I just think that maybe too many modern movies overuse them. And I think if you have them less, the ones that are there are going to be more impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
like
my
some of these newer movies are like they
rely on it.
They market their jump scares throughout the movie. So then the movie is just end up like, well, then your story better be really good because all of your jump scares are now on TV or YouTube or all the other movie theaters. So like,
Well, and that's difficult too because it's like a lot of newer horror films. They rely on jump scares, but then they also show you every jump scare in the marketing.
Mhm.
So like you walk in and I know a lot of people said that about Halloween Kills, which I think they went a little overboard with. There were people that were like they showed every single kill, and I was like, "There's 30 kills in there." Like, no, they didn't. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't show everything.
It showed a lot, though.
It did show
in the trailer.
Yeah. Like that firefighter. I mean, could you imagine if you would have, if like, even if the trailer would have just ended with him walking out on the porch and like he holds the thing and that's it. But I mean, seeing that firefighter stuff for the first time would have been like, oh, shit, like this is pretty legit. We're not keeping you too long, are we?
No, I'm all good. I can go for at least another half hour or so.
Okay, sweet. Well, I figured we'll go about another 20, 25, 30 minutes or so. I just saw a comment here. Where did it go? My entire comment thing just
Don't you hate that?
I know. It literally all just went
StreamYard
away.
is funny sometimes with that. I don't know.
It is like it jumps.
Sometimes.
Slasher Fred, what's going on, man? I wonder if he's going to con people into whitewashing his entire face. Fence? What are you talking about?
I wonder if he's going to con people into whitewashing his entire fence. Whitewashing.
Honestly, Slasher Fred, I don't know if I understand the
that was a brain teaser.
I know. I don't even know if I understand what you're trying to say, buddy. Maybe you can clarify a little bit. Rosalia says you could have some information from other inspiration. That's how to talk from other movies, but ultimately you have to make your own vision. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
I agree with that, and I like that. I like that you're, and obviously like. I don't. It's a hard question to ask. Like, about like telling us about the story you're trying to tell, but like, and I mean, for obvious reasons, you can't share that. But, I like that you're throwing your own spin on things, and I like that you're, I like that you're adding your own spin on it, and that you're adding to the lore of it. You know what I mean? I enjoy that. I think that's special.
You gotta have something to add,
Right,
I mean, I wouldn't have made this film if I didn't feel like I genuinely had something to add. I'm not just remaking the original. I'm not just. It's not a carbon copy cutout of the original. It's a different story, very different characters, and even different motivation from the Sawyer family than you got in the original. I didn't feel like it. I'm not ignoring the whole cannibal aspect in our film. It's there, but it's not the main thing with the Sawyers in this family. And I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but I didn't want to just redo that. I mean, you're never gonna recreate Grandpa sucking on Sally's finger for the first time, which was actually her blood that he was. Again, it adds to the authenticity. Gunnar just got
OSHA violations.
That would have got me sued for sure.
Yeah. Well, even on on Marilyn Burns, I think like that chase scene we were talking about where she's falling through the woods and stuff. I think like there's a documentary. I'm sure you've seen it. I don't remember what it's called. It's on
there's
YouTube.
A Family Portrait.
Maybe, I don't
Is it the
know.
one where they're interviewing all the family members?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called The Family Portrait. Yeah, I've
Well,
seen that many times. I love that one.
yeah, like they had talked about like all of the or a lot of the blood on her shirt is actually her blood because she's fallen so many times and cut herself up and like, yeah, that would never fly these days.
She was pretty beat up, that gal, after that movie. Like Drayton had to actually hit her with that broom, and he had a hell of a time doing it. So they did take after take, and it's like, and they're like, no, you gotta hit her harder, and she'd come out with more bruises every time, but you had to really hit her, and she's like, just hit me for fuck's sake. So eventually, finally did, and it's that's authenticity works. You gotta actually have your actors do it. I know, and you know what? In some cases, it really worked in our film as well, because we had our female lead, Nika Lu, was just willing to do anything. And I always said to her, that if something's not safe, anytime I said, hey, if it's not safe enough for you, I know it's kind of dangerous, we can try something else. And she was like, I want to do it. And she always wanted to be tied up. She pushed the rest of the cast, I think, to do stuff that was slightly more dangerous.
Like at this point, you needed a safe word, because this is like, okay, let me know when it's gonna happen.
Oh man, that girl, I don't know how she did it, but she was all in. She was like,
that's awesome.
She needed to actually be tied up to really show her struggle. She couldn't be fake tied, and so.
And that's good. That's good to have like actors that just want to they want to be like delved into the experience. Like they want authenticity just as much as you, the director, wants it too.
So it does help with the performance, I think it's kind of like method acting, I guess you could say. It's almost to that point, but I don't think you could say that they were really method acting in the original, but they were really taken to that point. Marilyn Burns was really taken to that point of hysteria, because of how long everything was going, how hot everything was, and everything around it was so claustrophobic, and everything smelled really bad. And once you've been in there for as long as you have, and you're shooting for 24 hours straight, by the end of it, you're going to be a little bit crazy. So it worked out well in that regards.
So your lead was almost like opposite Marilyn Burns.
Kind of. In a sense, and technically, we actually have a male lead in our film. But I always like to say that it's two leads. She's definitely the female lead, and she's the plot-driven character, and he's the character. He drives the character. Yeah. So both are pretty equally important in my opinion. But she was the one that really pushed everybody to up their game and be willing to take a few risks. If something wasn't 100% safe, just try it. Just a little fall on the ground, you can do that, right? Stuff like that.
You're just jumping out a two-story window, like what?
We didn't do that. That would have been cool, but at the same time, it's we just couldn't do something like that. I wish we could have. It's just it would never fly these days. Logistically, but some people were, not even wanting to just kind of fall down, or whatever. And, she kind of pushed them a little bit to be willing to do that. And I think, not everybody was unwilling, but, a few people could be a bit unwilling. And I think she really helped in that regard. And just a very young, talented actress. And, I think she's got a great career ahead of her. That's for sure.
That's awesome.
So, what was your journey in regards to finding these actors? Like the cast itself. Like, I know some of them are your friends and whatnot, but like how were you?
I've never met any of these people before. Oh, okay. None of them are my friends. They are now. Now, I feel like
okay, good.
But I had it's funny we're talking about Nika. Nika was the very first person I gave the role to. Gave any role to. I said, Nika, if you want this role, it's yours. And that was because she did such a phenomenal job in our promotional trailer that we shot here in Canada. Because she actually lives in the same town that I do. We're both Canadian, so I'm like, you can come to Texas with me. We're going to Texas. You're going to play this role, because I didn't see anybody else in that role. From the very first audition she sent me when she was only 16, I think. She was only 16, but I knew the character I wrote, and it was like she embodied that character. So it didn't matter. The other person that came from Canada was our Leatherface actor, Scotty Parkin. He lives a town over from me. And he was also in our promotional trailer. And I thought the two of them looked great together when they did this certain thing in a I guess you would call it our dinner table scene. I guess you would call it that. And they both had to interact, and it was probably the most powerful moment of that trailer. So I just decided I wanted to cast both of them. But she was the first person I cast. And then after that I reached out to different casting agencies in Texas, and was on Facebook and actors groups in Texas and all that kind of thing, and just was pretty thorough with the process. And that was another one of the reasons why we didn't release our trailer in Indiegogo as sooner than we did, was because I did want to have at least the core cast already in place.
So did you have anyone that was like semi-hesitant in going into the movie? Because again, like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is so controversial in how it was filmed. So I'm just curious, did any of these actors were like kind of hesitant at first, or were they all just like gun ho, like I'm here to act, so let's do it?
I think pretty much anybody that auditioned for roles wasn't hesitant there, because otherwise they wouldn't have auditioned. But I remember early on there was a few people that emailed me, asked me what the movie was, and you tell them what it was about, and then you wouldn't hear back from them. So I'm guessing those were hesitant, and they never let me an audition. So that's the way it goes, and that's been with every movie I've made, though. So that just happens. Some people just flake out. Life comes up, and are they really serious actors? I guess you would say. Some people just do it when they can.
Right. Well, and let me ask you this too. This is something I've kind of wondered about, and again, probably only so much you can say, and that's completely fine.
You can't spoil the movie, Brad.
Could you put the script up here on screen, Steve? That'd be great. Is this, obviously it is a prequel to the original film, correct? Is this necessarily an origin type story for some of these characters, or are we kind of already huh?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Well, if you remember from our earlier conversation, how I mentioned I like the mystique of these characters, I find them to be scarier that way. And so in that regards, I don't think I really put together any kind of an origin story.
Right.
What I did do was maybe give a little bit more insight as to some of the characters and some of what's going on than that you wouldn't have gotten from the original. However, I wanted to do it in such a way that you feel like you probably got more out of watching more from the characters when you watch the original after this. I tried to do it in that sort of way where you can watch this film and then watch the original and be like, oh, what the hell's happened to Grandpa now? Oh, I guess he can't talk anymore. And Drayton is actually like, it's like this person is actually like that or whatever, and so you discover new things about the characters if you had never seen the original when you watch the original after this.
That's cool. And I didn't necessarily mean origin as in like the reason they're doing what they're doing, but like just the original, you kind of feel like you're just dropped into their situation and their scenario. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's an interesting kind of thought process, as to like,
for sure,
how you end up in that mess of a family, so that's kind of interesting. And Slasher Fred brings up a good point. We were talking about music earlier. I've noticed how the score for the original film sounds like a sound effects score. I know, did you I assume you composed the music, or
I composed some of the music. I had a few people actually help compose music for this because one, I've had a few people that had good music that they had to give me.
Right.
And I was pretty adamant that I wanted to use real composers.
Right.
That I wanted real music to be on this and not just be some sort of, soundscape that you can find online or anything like that.
Right.
I wanted it to be done by real people that knew what they were doing. Now, at the same time, I knew I get approached by composers all the time, and I think that's a problem we have, is that so many indie filmmakers are using those free soundscapes that you can find online,
right?
That it's really hard for composers to actually find real work these days. But the thing is, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not your typical score.
Exactly.
It has to be right. So, I think it was about a year and a half ago. I maybe not even quite that long ago. This guy who's on Instagram or sorry, it's a slasher app, goes by the handle Gory Rory. He messages me and says, I'm a composer and I've always wanted to do something Texas Chainsaw Massacre-ish. If I send you a piece, you think you'd use it in your film? I said to him, I'd have to approve it. And he sent me this piece, and it was just called The Sawyer House. And I'm like, this is Grandpa's house theme. I think he composed it to the original Sawyer house in the original, but I was like, this is what we need for Grandpa's house
That's awesome
in our film. So like every time we're approaching Grandpa's house in our film, that music comes in, and it really feels like it's something you would hear in the original.
Yeah.
You almost feel like he took it from the original, but he didn't. It's all his own. He created all the sounds himself. And that's the thing, you use, it is kind of sound effect-ish, but it's organic. That's what I did. I did stuff like I took my microphone out to a dumpster and just kind of, with the lid on the dumpster, it stunk really bad too. It was June or something at this point, and I just tried to get this dumpster lid to squeal a certain way to make these stinger type sounds, and it really created an interesting atmosphere. And then you play with the pitch on it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's really cool to do.
I love that stuff.
That's what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is. It's not really music, it's sounds. It really is a lot of 100%. Sounds.
I like that a lot, man. By the way, guys, we're starting to kind of move towards wrapping up here. If you guys have questions for Steve, please throw them in the chat right now.
I was going to bring up Mike Lutz's question right there. Yeah. It was probably a good one right there.
Yeah, Mike said, what was the hardest character to capture the spirit of on screen in your feature? Great stuff, guys. Thank you, Mike.
As far as legacy characters, I mean, they're all kind of tough, but I wrote my own versions of them. I think Drayton was really tough because I really kind of, I did something different with the character. I always treated it like this is 8 years before, and these characters are not the same that they were in the original. And writing the character it felt like a big risk. I felt like I was taking a big risk. And I thought that, a lot of people would read it and say, what the hell did you do to this character? I thought
that's always a big fear right there. That's always the gamble.
That was going to be the reaction. But now I know I did the right call because, even the early screenings of the film, people are saying how much they like what I did with the character.
That's
Again,
awesome.
I won't spoil it, but and actually people really like the way Bill Housekeeper portrayed the character. Bill Housekeeper has a very different voice than Jim Seedow does, though. I think that was the one thing I wish I could have spent some time with him on, because Jim Seedow had a lower tone voice, and Bill Housekeeper, who played Drayton in our film, has a much higher pitched voice, and it was kind of hard for him to get into those low tones, especially interacting with the hitchhiker in there, and you little twit. I wanted him to be like that, but it's like, you little twit. He's kind of like that, up in that register, but it's that he still did a great job with it. He still got the character. I think that the vocal tones was the hardest thing, because you have the natural voice you have, and that's,
you got to work with it.
Change their pitch, and some people can't.
Yeah, 100%, man. Real quick before we get out of here, two more things I wanted to ask you about. And this is not necessarily Sawyer Massacre related, but this is a couple of your other projects. The Unseen, which I watched yesterday, which I absolutely loved, dude.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I
Did
really
you get it? Half the people don't get it. It's
well,
very ambiguous. I guess
I
you could
liked
say.
how ambiguous it was. Like, it to me it almost felt like a really cool mix of like it it was the Black Christmas kind of atmosphere and the treatment of the killer, but it was also like it had elements of like TCM and Halloween. Like it had some of that claustrophobicness, but it also like the choice to make it in black and white almost gave it kind of like a film
That wasn't my
noir
choice,
type
actually.
deal.
We
Really?
didn't film it in black and white.
Right.
The editor actually just color graded it to that. He
I liked it.
took
I
the
thought it was a
saturation
nice
way
choice.
down or something. Yeah, it works. It definitely works. Yeah, it's there's something there, and that's actually what I plan on to be my next feature film, is the feature length version of Unseen. Because there's so much I just couldn't do in that short film, and like I said, most people don't get it because it's there's a theme with the killer in that movie. I don't know if you picked up on it or not. There's a theme with the killer. There's a reason why he's
I'll have
attacked.
to go back and watch it.
He probably will. There's a reason why he thinks all these women are the same person. Anyway, I won't get too deep into the plot, but
Yeah.
there's a reason why. And it was easily missed, and I really wanted to dive into mental illness, I guess you could say,
Right.
with that film, and the perspective of being, shooting a lot of POVs is putting the viewer's audience in his mind, basically, to see how easy it can be for somebody to go off the deep end, for any of us to go off the deep end, and all of a sudden, just like that, we've snapped, and
right,
because everybody does have that dark side in them, and I think we have to acknowledge that we all have that dark side in us, and I think it does kind of capture that well. I think the POVs really help with that, but I need a feature length version to really get my message across, I think.
Well, that's awesome. I'm really excited. And then last one I wanted to ask you about: follow your heart. So well, and listen,
left turn. The major left turn.
It really was.
Career.
But I also kind of dig it though. Like I kind of dig that taking a stab at something new. So what was the what was kind of your inspiration for that film?
My life story, I guess. I don't know. It's very strange. Because I made that film after I did First Annual Barbecue. And I guess you could say I thought that I failed with First Annual Barbecue, and I thought maybe I'm not a horror filmmaker. So I took this left turn. I kind of had ideas in my head. It's not autobiographical, really. I mean, a couple things that are in the movie did actually happen in my life, but it's really not the same. It's not really not autobiographical like I probably make it out to be sometimes, but I don't know. I just I wanted to take a left turn and show that I could do something very different. So that was story wise, it was good. A lot of people gave the script praise. I think it, unfortunately, execution wise, it does suffer from a lot of technical flaws, and which is why we've never officially released the movie.
I was gonna say, because I was trying to find a place to watch it and I couldn't find it anywhere. So.
Yeah, I have it on my I have it on a hard drive somewhere.
Okay.
Actually, I think I have it on my big hard drive right now, and I've been meaning to go back to it, but that was my biggest lesson. The biggest lesson I learned from that was have a professional audio guy. Hire somebody who knows. Excuse me. Hire somebody who does audio professionally for a living. And that because I spent so much time in post-production trying to fix the sound and doing ADR and still not knowing how to do ADR properly, and it was a huge lesson learned, basically, because it is a feature-length film. It's actually a 2-hour long film.
Wow.
The cut is, I believe, 1 hour and 50 minutes. Actually, it was over 2 hours, and we cut it down. But but yeah, it's kind of too bad because I spent a lot of money on that movie, and I mean not a lot of money. I mean they say a lot of money, but it's not that much money,
Right.
but it'll never be quite what it should be because the audio is just not up to par. It's unfortunate, but maybe I'll still release it someday just because why not? Why not show how far you've come, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But I hope that when people do see it, they do see a good story. I guess that's all I can ask for is they could appreciate the story that takes place, even with all the little flaws that are in it.
Right.
Some of the acting is, we had kids.
Right.
Kids in the movie. So the adults did pretty good for the most part though. So I mean, I think overall, for a indie film that was made for under 10 grand Canadian, we did okay. It's not, I should just release it honestly because it's never going to be any better. It's never going to be better. It's the first feature I ever did. So yeah. No regrets on that. It was a learning. I learned a lot. Learning is awesome. Never a mistake.
Absolutely, man. 100% agree. Steve, thank you so much for this, man. This has been an absolute blast, and
thanks for having me on.
It's hyped me up even more for the Sawyer Massacre. So,
I hope you guys like it, man. It won't be for everybody though. I'll say this: if anybody's going into the Sawyer Massacre expecting a bloodbath, just lots of gore, there's a lot of kills, sure, but lots of gore. You might be disappointed. It is a little bit more of a character focused movie.
I like
character driven movie, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to make the characters likable, so you actually felt something for them when they 100%. Died on screen.
100%, and I appreciate that.
But I know lots of people are they want to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre for lots of blood and guts and stuff like that.
They want to see somebody decapitated.
Oh yeah. Hey, well, who doesn't, right?
and for anybody watching right now or anybody watching after the fact, I think I want to say I put it in the description too. I'll have to go ahead and double check that after we sign off here. But the Indiegogo link is in the chat. It's in the description. I will also post in the comments. Please support Steve and his crew in any way that you possibly can. Thank you so much for being on, man. Anything else you want to plug about the film? October 21st, is that correct?
October 21st is the official release date. And again, you can get an early screening now. You can, if you get that perk on the campaign, it's $30 Canadian, $20 ish US, $22. I don't know the conversion. It changes all the time.
Yeah.
You can watch the film today. And so far
awesome.
the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. I have to say I just can't believe how much people actually really like the movie. You put your art out there and never know if people are going to like it. But again, it won't be for everybody. Character driven film.
I like that. I appreciate that. J-Dead signed on, man. He said his weekend's booked. He's watching the Sawyer Massacre, then he's watching our live stream. Yeah. Awesome. Steve, forgive me real quick. I'm going to give a selfless plug. So lots going on this week. Tomorrow, we're revisiting Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which is going to be a dark evening. That one's rough. And then Saturday, we are also doing our live watch along, continuing the road to Halloween Ends with Halloween 2018. So we're going to watch that live at 8 p.m. on Saturday night as well. So, and I guess we might have to throw something in there if a new Halloween Ends trailer drops. Who knows? So who knows?
I hope
they might drop a new one soon.
For Halloween Ends, man. I really do. I like that first teaser trailer they dropped. I really liked it. I like what I'm hearing about this Corey character and all this stuff.
It's different.
I think it's different. It's sounding more character driven. Wow. It's sounding like it is. It doesn't mean it necessarily will be, but I really hope that they go back to the roots and it's not just kill. Michael's everywhere. Michael's basically Jason Voorhees at this point. And
well, and they've even said that, like, David Gordon Green has said, like, if you're walking into Ends expecting if you're expecting Michael to take out an entire team of first responders for the second time, like it's not going to happen. So I have my fingers crossed.
Don't repeat yourself.
My hope is that at the end of Ends, everybody goes, oh, that okay. Like it was different. I didn't expect that, but I liked it.
It's all a good ending.
It worked for this story. It's a solid ending for Laurie Strode, which is what we did not get with Sally Hardesty. I'm just saying.
Just saying, yeah, you're not incorrect. That's for sure.
So, Steve, thank you so much, buddy. Be sure we'll just after we end the actual live stream, stay on and we'll say our goodbye there. Guys, if you are in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. New episodes of our shows premiere every single Tuesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. and 10 a.m. Eastern. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at We Talk the Movies. Steve, what are your social media accounts, by the way? Your social media handles.
Chainsaw Sawyer on Instagram, Massacre Sawyer on Twitter, the Sawyer Massacre on Facebook, both the group and the page. I'm on TikTok as well. I can't remember I hardly ever use TikTok, but I'm on there. I'm on the Slasher app, the Sawyer under the Sawyer Massacre, I believe. We got all kinds of social media. We're everywhere.
Sweet. Sweet deal, man. Go check them out. Yeah, we're on TikTok too, but I think we have like 2 things posted on and they're from like a year ago. Like we don't ever use TikTok, but all right, guys,
thank you. 8 posts on there, but I only got 200 followers or something like that. It's like, I don't know how to use TikTok very well.
Yeah, that's outside of my expertise. So Miguel's in charge of our TikTok.
As you can see, it's not going well.
At least you have it.
Yeah, at least we have it. You can check that box. So, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.